Dungeons and Dragons and diversity. This is so ridiculous. The appeal of Dungeons and Dragons from the games that I have played with other people is that diversity is, from the very first sentence right here, for the very first part of the first sentence, teaches that diversity is strength. Yes, that is incredibly important. Yes, but diversity for the sake of diversity is not an ultimate good. The ultimate good is that we're first going towards the same goal, that we have the same values, that we think on the same track. Not that we're thinking the same way, but we're on the same track, going in the same direction. That is what is the first thing that is most important. And I might be a little bit antagonistic mentioning that before diversity, but you can't just have diversity. Diversity is not a morally good thing in its own right. You have to have it as a supplementive from first having foundational values like going in the same direction, having our same goal, having the same goals, having the same objectives, or at least we're going in the same direction. We're not tearing each other apart, because if you're just going for diversity for the sake of diversity, that's what happens. A great example is a church, or the Jewish community, or specifically the army. You have a bunch of people, probably one of the grandest examples of diversity. But the first thing that matters is that we all have the same badge on I think it was our left shoulder if I remember correctly, that we have a flag. That flag is what represents who you are. You're not your insert characteristic, insert immutable characteristic or trait. You are that thing that matters most. We're an American. We together are American. And with religion, not even just saying Christianity or anything, it's just that with religion, specifically like Islam or Judaism, Catholicism, Christianity, those are just the ones that I know, Buddhism, is that there's this ideology that we all are connected we're all connected. And from that baseline, regardless of how you and I think, that there's this ultimate connection to something greater than ourselves that pulls us all together being that one thing. But with Dungeons and Dragons and pretty much this whole quote-unquote SJW woke nonsense, this is what they value the most. And it's getting lost in what matters more than that. It's like America is a fundamentally good place. But by that very nature, what I just said was offensive to people. So if you really think that America is just the worst, please leave. I don't want you here. You don't deserve to be here. That's a better way of saying it. You don't deserve to have the blessings in your life. You get all the blessings in your life, you shit on everybody else who recognizes those blessings. Man. Anyways, let's get into this. I got enough of my rant. Let's get into this. Dungeons and Dragons teaches that diversity is strength, which is. It's incredibly important. For only a diverse group of adventurers who overcome many challenges that D&D story presents, which is true. Like a diverse group of people with different skills that can handle different tasks come together to achieve an ultimate good. Like, that's what business is. You don't just have marketing deal with the production line. You don't have people who deal with P&R deal with human resources. These things are different. People have different skill sets, different focuses, different attributes, different skill sets. You come together to achieve a particular goal. That's what any grand thing does. The greatest villains you ever take down in D&D are not not just a monster, but somebody who's been playing behind the scenes, getting other people to do their own bidding, their own doing, and then you tear down those structures one little organization at a time. In that spirit, making D&D as welcoming and inclusive as possible has moved to the forefront of our priorities over the last 6 years. We'd like to share with you that we've been doing, and what we plan to do in the future, to address legacy D&D content that does not reflect who we are today. So you're going to change the past because of your current modern day sensibilities. So if I say the word, pardon the language, but fuck, if 6 years from now I say, well, I don't like that, I'm going to remove the video. Okay? Or we're going to change the video. Okay? Or you toughen up, realizing what was said at that time was not who we are right now. You respect the past. You honor the past. recognizing that it's not you who you are anymore, but it got you where you are today. Let me say that again. D&D is changing everything that happened in their past that has made them successful, and they're saying, well, we need to change what made us successful because that's not who we are today. Okay, it's not who you are today, but you're changing what made you successful. If somebody goes online and posts some stupid, shitty stuff about themselves, and like starts ranting about the most retarded of things, which I'm not excluded from that argument, but if there's something bad that happens in their past, and they gain 100 million views, let's just go something outrageous, and they gain 50,000 subscribers in that one day, that one post, 50,000 plus subscribers, and a continuous audience that grows. And then they say, well, that's not who I am anymore. I'm going to remove that stuff. It's like, okay, I don't get why you would, like, kind of, that's how you became successful. Any other person who's trying to get to your level, they need to be doing that. I don't get that. Burning the past, how you got to where you are today, and then, like, if this is how you got here today, how can you get to the next level? Because they have such name recognition, because Dungeons and Dragons is the bedrock of nerddom, they can do whatever they want because they've built up something for the last 50 years. They're not going to be going away anytime soon, within the next decade or two. But they certainly are going to be leading people astray because they are so embedded within nerddom. We recognize that doing this isn't about getting to a place where we can rest on our laurels, but continuing to head in the right direction. In the right direction, meaning producing a good content that will give people what they want. Rather, are you listening to Twitter or the people who will give you money? That's a good question. Are you listening to people on Twitter or those who will buy your stuff? I mean, I have on my shelf right now. Which one is it? Give me 1 second. Oh yeah. Oh man, I went out and probably maybe 3 months ago, I bought the Dungeons and Dragons starter kit box. I think it was like $30. I don't know if I got that at Walmart or a Half Price Books, or a game shop. But I bought it because it's nostalgic for me. I love that type of stuff. But there's a lot of great artwork with Dungeons and Dragons. Do I want to continue buying and giving them my money? I'm hesitant. If you're going to change the past, well, what if the past is something that we can respect but we don't do anymore? Or it's the history that was in the past, like let's just say 100 years ago, people used to act in horrific ways. We don't change the history books to say, well, we don't like what happened 100 years ago. Instead of saying, well, this is what happened 100 years ago, this is where we're going to be going. And when you start changing history, where does it stop? Where does it stop? It stops whenever I want it to stop. That's the mentality of, we don't like it now, so let's erase it. Okay, well, I mean, if you are okay with that, can we change what you like, as long as there's more of us that agree with it? But it's Dungeons and Dragons, so can I go into Dungeons and Dragons? Are you going to celebrate me getting into Dungeons and Dragons, getting to the very top, and then wiping away clean any and all progression towards any and all particular directions? No, you're not, because you don't like it. Well, I thought the biggest issue is just that changing of history, man. Okay. We feel that being transparent about it is the best way to let our community help us to continue to calibrate our efforts. I'll give them this. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. And if they're being transparent about their actions, I give them props. They still have my respect on that regard. Because there's a lot of organizations that are doing all these changes behind the scenes. And a great example, Antifa, Black Lives Matter. They're rioting, they're pillaging, they're plundering, burning people's houses, and they literally burned somebody alive in their own business. They burned somebody alive, he's dead. Okay, well, what about the Black Lives Matter? Who is organizing it? Will you please come out and have a public display about where you're going to be going next? Or are you keeping everything under wraps? Because transparency, like police body cams, are the greatest way to snuff out shitty behavior. But people, the majority of people who want to claim power, need to act in the shadows because they are a bitch. But it is the most effective way to get what you want. You hide in the shadows, you do things behind the scenes, and then once you've gained enough momentum, the moment people are now aware of you, where the sun starts to shine, you can't stop them because of how much influence they have. It's a great example of grassroots campaigns. You start locally where the big people don't even know who you are. And then you start going from town to town, city to city. You start to go from person to person, group to group, family to family, and then once you gain this momentum, then once you have the momentum and you're still building it, the people who are at the very top look at you and say, well, whoa, 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 or the people, the household name, don't know who you are. But the time that people do know who you are, you have so much behind you, there's no stopping you. That's why Black Lives Matter, as a political organization, they are a legitimate terrorist group because they are using violence as a political means to change politics. So fuck Black Lives Matter because of that. Because of them being political, using violence, using fear, and using the one ass backwards type of argument. You disagree with Black Lives Matter? You disagree with Black Lives Matter? Well, then you must hate black people. Fuck that, snuff it out, shut up. One of the explicit design goals of 5th edition D&D is to depict humanity in all its beautiful diversity by depicting characters who represent an array of ethnicities, gender identities, sexual orientations, and beliefs. Let's first just say that is to depict humanity. That's going to be brought up very quickly if you see this word down here, orcs. Okay? Orcs aren't human. Half orcs are half human. But in the real world, there's only human. There's any other deviation of human is a different culture, a different background. You're still human. Who and or what humanity is can be brought into play. If an orc is half human and half orc, where is that humanity? How should a half orc, half human, half blood, if you will, be acting to be human, to have that good, but also wrestle with the evil within of those choices that you can control? Do elves go through that? Are elves human? No, they're not. It's fantasy. It's so fantasy. But oh my gosh, I don't know how to explain this to. Again, I'm not explaining it to you. How do I explain it to somebody who believes that all this stuff is good? Like, I don't know how to communicate to somebody who thinks that an orc is a human. I really don't know how to get through to that person, other than just saying, what? Please explain yourself, because I truly want to know how you think that. We want everyone to feel at home around the game table and to see positive reflections of themselves within our products. Noble cause. That's a noble cause. I respect it. But it's your application that's the issue. Human in D&D means everyone. No, it doesn't. No. You don't get to be a dragon and I'm a human because I'm half dragon. No, you're a human/dragon. A dragon is a species. An orc is a species. A halfling is a species. The race aspect is that human is one race. Any other deviation, you are either a different species or a different entity. Human, you are as an orc, is not a human. This is where Dungeons and Dragons has become very quote-unquote woke. Their retardedness of trying to to try to placate and tell everybody to stop and say, hey guys, let's just have fun. No. Truth matters. Truth matters. What is a human? Well, an orc is a human. Everyone's a human. No. Because this falls along the lines of the same argument of, well, what's gender anyways? Anyone can be of a gender. Anything and all things are gender. Okay, what's a woman? Well, it's whatever you feel like a woman is. Well, I'm going to specifically say it's a biological woman. Oh, no. Biology and gender are different. Okay, please define to me what gender woman means, so I know who that is. If it's just like if it's like porn, oh, you know what you see it. You know when you see it. Okay, let's define what porn is. What is porn? Please define it to me. And it's like, if I'm not even able to do it, is that not my issue? If I can't explain what, as in an example, let's just go with woman instead of keep talking about porn. If we go with if I can't describe what woman is as the gender form, does that mean that gender doesn't have a descriptor? Or do I need to have one? Because if I know that there is one, and I say, well, what is it? What is this? If there is no definition I can give, does that mean it does not have a definition? It can't be identified using words. Because if you use words and you start limiting it, and I start using words, and it's a different form of that limiting factor of, I say it's biology, you say it's how you act. Okay, well, what are those actions? Well, it's whatever you want it to be. So there's no freaking reason to have woman be anything else other than everybody is a woman. So I'm a woman. By me acting the way and talking the way, thinking the way I am, without a doubt, your definition, a woman. That is the biggest issue when it comes to leftism, the virus that it is of an ideology. It makes you weak, it breaks down everybody's walls, it makes you so vulnerable, because if you start to attack, meaning question, any and all correct things, truth, if you start to question that, you're going after them. You're hurting somebody. Truth matters. At the end of the day, truth matters. Actually, at the end of the day, technically you could either say one or the other. But some things are more correct than others. If you want to go with a grading scale that there is some type of like, well, it's not an absolute. There are no absolutes. Well, is that an absolute? Well, no. It's just whatever is pertinent to right now. Let's go with that. Let's start with the basic root. I know this is going down a rant. I'll get off the rant. I'll get on back into this in a second. Let's start with science. Science. Let's go with water in a freezer. Water in a freezer. Water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Kelvin. Not Kelvin, Celsius. I think Kelvin's like negative 350. I don't know what Kelvin is. But 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. If you put water in a freezer and the freezer is at 50 degrees Fahrenheit and whatever the conversion is at Celsius, will it freeze? The answer is no. Why? Because the situation won't cause that result. Those actions do not cause that environment. Those actions don't cause that result. Let's extend that to somebody who says everything is human means everyone. Does it mean that human is everyone, or are you saying that everyone has humanity within them? Not everyone has. Again, even if you just mean the players, not everyone. If you mean the players have humanity, no. Humanity is not your is not your genetics. It's like the more visceral word instead of just saying ethnicity. It's not your genetics. It's not how you were built from your birth. It's how you act. As a half orc, half human, how should you act as a quote-unquote human? How should you be acting as the human that's within inside of you? How can you live in that factor? That's the same activity of somebody saying, hey, how can you be more Indian? How can you act as Indian? But what is in a big issue with the current racism that actually does perpetrate within society is that, and not society, the world, is that because you're an Indian of ethnic Indian heritage, therefore there is an expectation for you to act like an Indian. For you to be born from Kenya, there's an expectation for you to act like a Kenyan. From you to be born as a last name Smith in America, then that means from our family as a Smith, you need to act like a Smith. There's some expectation within humanity for people to be passed on because that is your trait, that is your defining characteristic. But within humanity, there are some fundamental things that transcend your ethnic background, your heritage, your culture. What matters is how you treat another person on an objective level of what is good. And great stories challenge that. A great hero does not act that way, but becomes the person to act that way. Overcomes the hurdles of, I feel bad and I want to hurt people, but I won't because there's a better way to act. That's what humanity is, and that's what defining moments within any and all stories have. But if you want to make it about the genetic, the structure of your birth, and and at the same time, also saying that you're a human regardless of how you act. Yeah, you might be human, but that doesn't mean you actually have humanity. And I might define humanity a little bit different than someone else. What is that definition? We might be going more left towards right or up or down, in and out, but we're trying to find what that means. It may change. It will change in the next 50 years. There's going to be another definition of what humanity is. It might change just slightly, but there will be a new definition. We respect the past, move on to what is better. We don't remove the history because we don't like it now. Because what if in 50 years we realize in the past, oh, we shouldn't have done that? But then in 50 years from there, people say, oh, we should just get rid of it again. Welcome to the ebb and flow that is humanity and our emotional aware. I would say more of our, hey, I forgot, so let's just do it. Or I don't know, therefore let's do whatever. It's like, whoa. Why? Question it just for a second. Man, good old water. Human in D&D means everyone. No, it doesn't. But let's just continue. Not just fantasy versions of Northern Europeans. What the fuck? I've never heard of this in my fucking life. What? Not just the fantasy versions of Northern Europeans? What the fuck does that have anything to do with D&D? Oh, D&D, go fuck yourself. What? What the fuck? Oh my gosh. I don't know what to do with myself. It's like, not the... Again, how I'm reading this is like human in D&D means everyone. Oh my gosh, I hate that sentence. That part. Not just fantasy versions of Northern Europeans. Not just versions of Ireland. Not just versions of South America. Not just versions of the Middle East. What does that have anything to do with the characters and monsters and creatures and stories and people in that thing? In the story of D&D. What the fuck? Oh... And the D&D community is now more diverse than it's ever been. Okay, what does that have to do with telling good stories? If you need more, let's just say, specifically immutable characteristics, like your skin color, your ethnic background, the heritage at which you were born from, what does that have anything... Well, let's do this for an example. Let's have a white person and a black person in the same group. Cool. What matters is not the diversity you have come from. It might be incredibly important that if there was, let's go for an example of a drow. A drow joins the group and an elf. Two of the most unlikely people, if I understand the storyline, which is I know more than most. I know less than the best. So I think that's the best way to describe it. There's a lot of people that know a lot more D&D than I do. I love playing the game. I don't really care about actually learning the game, if that makes any sense. It's like, just give me the controller and I'll start playing with it. I don't care to actually look up the instruction manual. That's a great way of looking at it for how I approach things. And the D&D community is now more diverse than ever. So let's just say that there was a drow that and an elf were partners on an adventure because there was a specific villain that killed both of their villages on different parts of their continent. that there's drows on one side, elves on the others. They come and they try to fight, and they realize, it's not about whatever we're dealing with, or maybe they were in the middle of a combat, or maybe they started fighting, and then the villain showed up, or maybe one of the henchmen of the villain showed up. And they both fought it, realizing that they have a greater enemy, not just themselves, and that's one thing that they at least tolerate within the other person. It's like, oh, you're a drow, you're evil, you're an elf, you're evil. And those are the voices I've given them. And then from there, they decide they embark on going from place to place in different communities within that continent. And each of those continents have different, let's just say, ethnic backgrounds. And you're able to communicate with those ethnic homogenous places more because of what you have. A drow is able to go into more drow-like communities and can actually have conversations, and if the elf goes in there, he might be killed on sight. So the drow has to do a little bit of a solo adventure to gain some information, and then go out and share that information with the elf, and then they can go and start gaining a little bit more people. Maybe they start hiring, or maybe they strike barters or deals to get to the villain themselves, and then they, again, from that progression, that's what's important with diversity. But, diversity is great when we're all on the same path. And the path that D&D is currently on, because human in D&D means everyone. No, it fucking doesn't. No, it doesn't. An orc isn't human, y'all fucking retards. Throughout the 50-year history of D&D, Dungeons & Dragons, some of the peoples in the game, orcs and drow being two of the prime examples, which aren't human for anybody out there who thinks that they are. They're not human. Gosh, fucking retards. Have been characterized as monstrous and evil, using descriptions that are painfully reminiscent of how real-world ethnic groups... Okay, so if you're attributing fantasy creatures to the real world, you're the problem. Let's a Terraskew. For anybody out there of what a Terraskew is... I have never fought a Terraskew in my life in Dungeons & Dragons, but it's always one of those things that it has been but one of the most difficult magical creatures in the game. I don't know much about it, but I always love referencing it. Terraskews are terrifying. We could even go with something that most people know. A griffin. Half eagle, half lion. I think it's a sphinx. Let's go with something a little bit better. A unicorn! Oh, man. Okay, let's go with the unicorn. A unicorn is fantasy. And if you think the real world is that fantasy, I don't know what to do with you. I don't know how to treat you. I don't know how to deal with you, if that's the truth. You can, whatever you think in this real world, you can change the future and how things turn out that way. But you also have to... You don't have to. I just think it would be helpful to you. Understand what things actually are. Because if you think that... As for an example, what ethnic group do you think an orc would best represent? From that question, you probably came up with an answer, which I don't fault you, because that's the narrative that's in the heads of people who are running Dungeons & Dragons right now. And if I said, hey, do you like orcs or do you hate orcs? And if you say, well, I hate them, because in World of Warcraft, it's always orcs versus or orcs versus humans, and I started with humans when I was 13 years old, and I've been playing that game for the last 13 years. And you know what? I just love the humans and the elves and the dwarves and the gnomes, and even the Draenei. You know what? Draenei came here and they were a little weird, but I accept them. Even the Worgen in World of Warcraft, they are all species, all characters or races that you can play. And if you hate orcs, that must mean, in their heads, in Dungeons & Dragons, you hate black people. Okay? Like, what? Wait, what? That's what they think. If I said, do you like orcs or humans? It's like, well, I think orcs can be formidable opponents if it was orcs versus humans. But if you hate orcs, it's something in the real world. Do you like drows or do you like elves? I think elves are stuck-up pricks, and I love drows. Oh, that must mean that you hate white people. Wait, what? What are you talking about? There's a species. It's a different species. It's not humans. Oh, no. Everyone is human. Dungeons and Dragons is wrecked. They wrecked themselves. It's been infected for the last 6 years on blatantly from how they've said for the last 6 years. They have been infected for even more, for 15 plus years. And they're not going away anytime soon, and they're going to start changing things. They truly are. Entertainment in the blessed world and life that we live in, entertainment is more effective than most things that happen. Because we don't need to focus on a drought. We don't need to focus on not having enough money in our bank. Because the money in our bank buys a lot more than it did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. More quality, higher quality things. I can go to the store. I can use my phone and type in whatever I want and push a button and it be sent to me without me even thinking or caring about it afterwards. We've gotten easier and easier and easier. Entertainment is where it all begins now, because we don't need to focus on the hardship of reality. Internet might go out. We don't know how to cope with that if it goes out for more than 3 days. We really don't. As for me, I would say that's more of me venting, because that I wouldn't know what to do with myself. If internet for 3 days feels like 3 years. Oh man, it's so weird. Okay. Real world ethnic groups. I've already talked about that. That's just not right, and it's not something we believe in. Despite our conscious efforts to the contrary, we have allowed some of those old descriptions to reappear in the game. We recognize that to live our values, we have to do an even better job in handling these issues. If we make mistakes, our priority is to make things right. Yeah, change the past, change the history, because we want to sweep it under the rug. It's like that's where you went. If you make a first movie and then you're working on a second movie, you don't say, well, first movie never happened because we want to go somewhere else. First movie happened, create something new or base something that's off of that first thing and then make it better. You improve, you grow. You don't salt the earth. Here's what we're doing to improve. And it's this one, the second to last, that's really bothersome for me. We present orcs and drow in a new light in 2 of our most recent books, Eberron, Rising from the Last War, and Explorer's Guide to Wildemont. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. In those books, orcs and drow are just as more... What? Oh my gosh! No! What the fuck? In those books, orcs and drow are just as morally and culturally complex as other peoples. Orcs aren't people! Because they're not human, and if you think an orc is a black person, you are the fucking problem. A drow is an elf. Elves aren't humans. They're not people. They're like, what? If you want to make them more complex because you want to create an orc, the whole basis is that Dungeons and Dragons attributes throughout the 50-year history of Dungeons and Dragons, some of the peoples in the game, orcs and drow, okay, those are humanoids that you can play. They're not necessarily people. Being of the 2 primary examples, have been characterized as monstrous and evil, using descriptions that are painfully reminiscent of how real-world ethnic groups have been and continue to be denigrated. Okay? They're not people. They're not humans. They're of a different species. And it's how they act. Their culture. You can have a very sophisticated orc that acts prim and proper. Good for them. They open the door for your lady. Oh my gosh, what a respectful orc. You're going to be part of the group. But orcs, of their ethnic heritage, of the thing that they are more prone to be doing, because the game has species, different races, humans, elves, orcs, half-elves, which, they've been mating, which whoever mated with an orc, good for you. Hopefully, I think it was probably rape because, orcs would probably be more aggressive. I don't know any human that would want to get on that willingly. And all of them have inherent trait bonuses to either intelligence or strength or charisma or even luck. But guess what? Those are of different species. They are not a person. Like, even in World of Warcraft, orcs in that world have a very strong and a warlike mentality that can be construed as evil and horrible from the outside looking in. But when you go onto the inside, it's an incredibly diverse, not even just diverse, it's incredibly well thought out and planned, and all of them. It's like live long, may your death be of honor or something. It's like it's just that they value a particular thing. You can humanize an orc, but at the same time have them look monstrously evil. You can have a human be monstrously evil as well, but from the actions that they take. You can have an orc look incredibly weak by not wanting to go to war, but maybe you can have them look wise by saying, this fight will not gain what we need to back off. And another orc is having a fight with him, and they start wrestling right in the middle of the entire army, and they say of whether or not to go towards this fight, because one is saying from these plans it's not going to work, and the other one says, like, this is what we do, we fight. And you can have that struggle of what is culturally normal and what is actually a good thing to do. So again, that's an orc is not human. They have characteristics of human, but human is what I'm deriving from because I am a human. If you think that an orc is a human, you're in the wrong. I don't get that. I don't understand that. Okay. In those books, orcs and drow are just as morally and culturally complex as other peoples. Okay? Yes, like World of Warcraft. I keep going to World of Warcraft because I grew up with World of Warcraft, so I apologize if I'm overusing it. It's just I grew up with World of Warcraft. I started playing it ever since. I didn't know much because I was probably like 13, 14, 15. I was actually saying that from experience. 13, 14, 15 when I started playing World of Warcraft. And I played a paladin. I didn't know what to do, so I was just spamming like 1 or 2. It looked cool, so I was going with it. But I was there for the opening of the Dark Portal for the first expansion, not the first game, but the first expansion. Dang, what was it called? The level you capped to level 70. I don't remember the Nether, the Twisting Nether, or whatever it was called. Oh yeah, you know how much of a gamer I am if I don't remember that one. Okay. We will continue that approach in future books, portraying all the peoples. They're not people. I want to know what they define as a person. Okay, is it just having a humanoid characteristics? Okay, well, what is that definition of how to act like a person? Okay, well, it's just personhood. Is that because you have personability, you have individuality, and that's what makes you a person? Like you have some self-awareness, which makes you like human, which makes you humanoid or whatever. I would say that that might be where they're going, but it's so weird for them to be discussing this. Of D&D in relatable ways of making it clear that they are as free as humans to decide who they are and what they do. Okay, I agree with that. I'm on board with that they can decide, but do they? Again, the majority of humans in story is that go to a town, you being a human, going into a typical Dungeons and Dragons town, they act however that town acts like. There's a culture there, and it's hard for those people to act a little bit more freely and go somewhere else. It's just what was in the past, what was a pre-medieval type of environment where whatever town you're in, you have to play nice and be part of the culture there. Or if you're kicked out, well, there might be a gigantic beetle on the road that can feed on your freaking flesh. So, okay. So again, they're probably gonna. That's not the worst of it. Whenever a D&D book is reprinted, every D&D is being reprinted. Every D&D book is being reprinted. Oh, they are just salting the earth. Holy shit. Oh, I need to get every single old Dungeons and Dragons book. I really do. I at least need to download it on my computer. If they're really reprinting every single Dungeons and Dragons book, okay. I mean, you could have it where, again, having an orc or a drow, a species, a race of being predominantly acting a certain way. That's how their species acts. There's different cultures. There's different subcultures. There's different ethnicities within inside their own of being a drow. Drow is a different species. It's not a different ethnicity. So you could have different groups within drows, but maybe the predominant nature of all of them put together to be a very shady, dark, like, what's the word? Rogues or something. Where each and every single, like the majority of them could probably be very skeptical about what it is that you're trying to do and maybe try to rob you, like maybe a gypsy. I'm just throwing that idea out there. Okay? But you could have it where the reason that they do that is that maybe there's a rich culture that's happening behind the scenes. Not for all of them. Maybe that activity is very destructive when introducing with other people. But maybe the drow actually collect their treasures and put it inside I'm just going with the word tomb, put it inside their own tomb of sorts, and they always collect maybe like 1% of whatever it is that you have, and like it's just like one of the richest cities that is not known to anybody, but except the drow. Like you could have that. It'd be very awesome. That they have a very destructive activity that's culturally shit, but you could have it that there's a much rich undertaking about why it is that they do what they do. And when you understand those reasons, what their actions are not justified, but they're explained, and we can understand that. So, like, that I would be a fan of, but I think they're going to try to attribute that an orc is a person. That's the direction that I'm going to call it. That's the direction they're going to be going. I'm guessing that. I'm presuming that because of what we've read so far. We have whenever a D&D book is reprinted, we have an opportunity to correct errors that we or the broader D&D community discovered in that book. Which, again, I would agree. If there is something that, well, this contradicts with this, I would agree with that. But you have a 5th edition because of that. You have a 6th edition because of that. If you want to play 6th edition or 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th edition D&D, well, we've clarified any and all issues. If you want to go back to any other edition, you can do that with the broken rules. But we tried to fix those rules in later and make it a little bit simplified for the average person. So hardcore people could probably go into the original 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th edition and realize how much more difficult it could be from the later editions that you come out with. But you have something. You're not tearing it apart. You're not, again, salting the earth. Changing it, again, I think that they're trying to sprout something good from it. Something good might come from it. But there's going to be some cultures, there's going to be that ideology that you think that an orc or a drow is specifically relating to of a person. They're an elf and an orc. Okay. Each year, we use those opportunities to fix a variety of things, including errors in judgment. In recent reprintings of Tomb of Annihilation and Curse of Strahd, for example, we changed text that was racially insensitive. Okay, races, dwarves and elves don't have to get along because of them being different races. But the whole part about you playing Dungeons and Dragons is that you can be a dwarf and another person can be an elf, and you have to get along, and then you can develop those character traits of like, well, I'm starting to love you more as a like a brother in arms because of all the shit that we had to go through, pretty much like Gimli and Legolas in The Lord of the Rings. The dwarf hated the elf didn't care. And then the dwarf kept just like, you know what? Like you got to see his sensitive side a little bit more and a little bit more, and they got to bond. That was awesome. But at the end, they were family. They were one. They were brothers. That's what connected them was not their ethnicity. And that's one thing that actually what Dungeons and Dragons for decades has been doing correctly is saying you of different races come together, a Fellowship of the Ring, for example, and go out and do this activity, bond. You will bond in the process. It's not an objective. It's just something that's going to happen because you have an objective, and you're all going towards that objective. You're going to bond regardless of whether or not you like that. And then you do it, and then at the end, you bond. And it's not because of your race. And racially insensitive, what's happening is that they're going to change the fuck out of the game, and it's horrendous. It's a horrendous thought. It really is. Those reprints have already been printed and will be available in the months ahead. Yay! Throw up. We will continue this process reviewing each book as it comes up for a reprint and fixing such errors as they are present. Errors where they are present. Later this year, we will release a product, not yet announced, that offers a way for a player to customize their character's origin, including the option to change the ability score increases that comes from being an elf, dwarf, or one of D&D's many other playable folk. I actually agree with that, because if a barbarian is still human. It's a class that you can play. You can have an orc barbarian, but barbarian can also be of a race, and barbarians have a high strength and maybe 1 to intelligence. But you can also have it where you might have a more monk-like, temple-like barbarians, where they live in the harshest of weathers, out up in a mountain, and what they do is that they feed and water and clothe each other only through like sheer will and hard work. That maybe their constitution is at a +1, and their luck is at maybe a -1. Because again, not many things go well with their lives, but they're very sturdy and strong in other places. Like you could have that customization of the origin from where you come from. I think that works. I'm on board with that. So, but again, making it into a 6th edition or 7th edition would be better for me. Like I don't understand. I don't understand why just change everything in the past rather than just making a new edition as to this, or like this is the new D&D, or like what we understand from our prior works, and what we want to do is continuously improve it for better playability, for where we are right now. And then you can look back on different editions and see what worked and what didn't. But when you remove all of the things from the past, how can you learn from it? The current political bullshit that's happening right now is they're trying to burn everything. I'm not talking about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm talking about what's happening in America right now. They're burning it. They're burning things down. How can we learn from the past if it's gone? Well, we got to make it whatever we want right now. Okay, well, can we look back to our 2nd edition book and see what? Nope, we changed it. Okay, well, what didn't work? We don't remember because it's changed. Okay, so how can we make more editions? We can't. We'll just go with whatever we think works. Okay, you could. Okay, but what if we make something bad? Well, it's everyone else's fault. Oh shit, that's where it always goes. It's always where it goes. Someone else's fault. Someone else is to blame. I'm calling it. I truly am. Dungeons and Dragons. I think within the next decade is going to start blaming the fans. I want to say that. Yeah. This option emphasizes that each person in the game is an individual with capabilities of their own. I agree with that sentiment. I agree with that. I am so on board. Just make it in a new edition. Make it in the 7th edition. Or a revamp of Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe call it 7th edition, but maybe the title can be not New Dungeons and Dragons, but D&D 2020 or something. Or, oh man, that would be fucking awesome. No, Dungeons and Dragons 2020 edition 1. And from this point, from here on out, is that we're going to be, there's a new lines of like new characters, maybe it's a new universe that you live in. I'm okay with that, but you don't change the past because you want to, because of how you think and feel right now. If I wrote in a journal for the last year or two, if I get pissed off today, I don't think it's a good idea to just burn the entire book. Okay, that's 1 year of journaling that I just destroyed because I felt bad. What if I slept over it? What if I put it to the side, put it in storage for a year? If I feel like doing it again, if I feel like getting rid of it because it didn't represent anything that I wanted, okay, you have enough time to get rid of it. But you don't just get rid of it. And more importantly, I might kind of contradict a little bit of what I just said, but it's like how you currently feel now is going to change. So changing the history because of how you think and feel now, well, guess what? In a year or two, you're going to have to reprint everything because something's going to be wrong. So it's just, you're going to have to constantly reprint rather than just make a better edition. Have you ever heard of a prototype? Yeah, that's called first edition. Have you ever heard of a second prototype? Yeah, that's called second edition. You constantly upgrade and evolve who and or what you are, and editions are a great way of doing that. We can have check marks of like, this is where we were, this is where we currently are. If somebody says like, this is where we were, and y'all are bad for that, and y'all are promoting it, no. We remember the past. We're not promoting the past. If people want to buy this, they get to. Because what matters is not how we think and feel now. What matters is our fans and the people who will pay us. If you want to go out and buy first edition, I want y'all to come to me. Because guess what? I want your money, is what Dungeons & Dragons should be doing. But they're scorching the earth. They're changing everything fundamentally. I have got to find those old Dungeons & Dragons books. I truly do. I really got to. So let me put it on my wall right now. I should be pausing it, but gosh. D&D old rule books. Before re-edits. Okay, I just made that. I'll look for that and try to shop around for something, but I'll try to get everything as much as possible. Cursive. Oh wait, did I was done with that? This option emphasizes. Yeah, each person in the game has an individual capabilities of their own. I'm so on board with that. I truly am. Cursive Strahd included a people known as the Vistani. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly, and featured the Vistani heroine Esmeralda. Regrettably, their depiction echoes some stereotypes associated with the Romani people in the real world. Okay. They're not the Romani. The elves are rich white liberals in this world. The rich white people, if you want to be more general. Rich white people are the elves. Stuck up, rich, well off. Okay, but that's a stereotype you can point to. But they are not humans. Dungeons & Dragons is going to fucking burn because of it's gonna be because of their own undoing. Their failure is going to be because of them in the next decade. To rectify that, we've not only made changes to Curse of Strahd, but in 2 upcoming books, we will also show working with a Romani consultant. Oh my gosh. They're not the Romani. I hope I'm saying that correctly, too. Romani? Is it just like the Romans, but a Romani? I'm going to go with Romani. It looks how I'm going to pronounce it how it looks. So, working with a Romani consultant. The Vistani in a way that doesn't rely on reductive tropes. Okay, but they're not the Romani. Elves, what? Orcs aren't black people, they're not Kenyans or whatever. They're not. Anybody who thinks that is... You can think that. You could think like, oh, wow, there's a stereotypical of blank race or blank ethnicity or something. It's like, okay. I mean, I would laugh. I mean, I've done it. I do it. It's like, hey, look. I do it all the time. Hey, look, there's a gnome who looks like insert ethnic group. And I was like, oh, hey, there's a little person. They're not a little person. And in the real world, a little person, or a midget, but a little person, isn't a gnome. They can play a gnome. They can. They're not a gnome. It's make-believe. It's fantasy. It's not real life. The Vistani in a way that doesn't rely on reductive tropes. Reductive. We've received... Here's the most troublesome part of the entire article. We've received valuable insights from our sensitivity readers on 2 of our recent books. Sensitivity readers? What? You don't have a hard life if you're a sensitivity reader. You read things through the lens of race and ethnicity and species and attribute them to specific ethnic people in this world. Your life isn't difficult if you are a sensitivity reader. If you have to hire a sensitivity reader, your life is not hard. Like, it really isn't. Dungeons and Dragons is about you not in the real world of like you getting a job and, meeting a nice girl, making babies and being an adult. But Dungeons and Dragons is about you growing the fuck up. It really is. Yeah. As an analogy, you grow up. You're going to go kill something, and you stab them in between the eyes. But if you stab them in between the eyes, you have to be very technical about that, because you have to roll some dice. What are your limitations? Oh, you mean I have to critically think about things? Oh. Oh, man. Sensitivity readers. What? We are incorporating sensitivity readers into our creative process. And that's where you fucked up. It's at this point Dungeons & Dragons knew they fucked up. And we will continue to reach out to experts in various fields, like sensitivity readers in various fields. What, like a Romani consultant? Are you going to have an American consultant about any stereotypes you have in Dungeons & Dragons? If you don't have a sensitivity reader with people who are stereotyped in Dungeons & Dragons as an American, or as a white American, so on and so forth, you're in the wrong Dungeons & Dragons because I want my representation. Oh, it's all bullshit. We proactively, except for this one part, I absolutely agree with that, individual capabilities of their own. I agree with that. I wish, like, if the new 7th edition, they came out with that, I'd keep supporting them. We're proactively seeking new, diverse talent to join our staff. But diverse and being towards the same goal. Like, hey, I don't like having politics be jammed into our work. But if they are diverse, like... Again, diversity is a trigger word for me. That I start to assume that because of you hiring for diversity, you aren't going to respect the past. You don't care about underlying profit, so you're just going to try to promote what you think is morally good. Like, you can do that, but again, I don't have to buy it. I don't have to like it. I can speak out against it. Yes, and I'm not wrong for doing that. So, it's like I just liberal-leaning, current modern-day liberal does not mean actual liberal. If you think that the individual is important, like they do, then diversity in of itself is not a good moral standard. I don't care if it's filled with women. I don't give a fuck. But do they have a quota that pushes men out, or pushes white people out, or pushes a Hispanic woman out because they need a black man? It's like, ooh, shit. And that's the issue. I don't give a fuck who produces good content. I want great content. I really do. I didn't know the producer of The Witcher, the director or producer, I don't know which one it is, the creator of the show, was a woman until I saw it after the second time through. I read about it, and I was like, oh, okay. And just moved on. That wasn't the point. What matters is what they were creating, not of their immutable characteristic, and thinking that, just like racial profiling, because you're an orc, therefore you think and feel this way. Because you have this, therefore you're a worthy person to put into our talent pool. No, it's not. Yeah, it's, again, if you think that it's important to put women into the pool, do you think that women specifically, because of their immutable characteristic, being a woman, has something to bring to the table? just like an immutable characteristic of an orc, being a certain way, that they're not an individual, that they can't just be anything that they want, that they have maybe something biological that tethers them to certain physical traits, but then they have to work on those physical traits or work on those activities that they may be prone to be doing. An alcoholic mates with somebody and makes somebody who's prone to being an alcoholic. 3 generations in, every single father is an alcoholic. How likely is the child, the great-grandchild of this lineage, have a likelihood to be an alcoholic? They might be not addicted to alcohol, but they might be addicted to something else. They're more prone to becoming that. Because of your ethnicity, that's not what matters. Your genetics don't matter. What matters is how you act, regardless of your genetics. It's not that you're mortal, that being mortal gives you life. What matters is how you act while you're as in your mortal form, per se. It's how you act. Okay. We've brought in contributors who reflect the beautiful diversity of the Dungeons & Dragons community to work on books coming out in 2021. We're going to invest even more in this approach and add broad range of new voices. New voices. Oh man, they're so fucking woke. Because when you say new voices, it's like, I don't care if 55% of them are all black. I don't care if 100% of them are all black. What is the culture that they are practicing? That's what matters. So, again, what matters is not of a, like, hey, oh, we need more black people. Do you need more black people? I don't understand why you need more black people. I don't understand why you would need more white people. If you need to get rid of white people because you think whiteness is an issue of having too many men or too many white people in a particular field, if you want more of a particular ethnic group, because if you want diversity to represent the people who are watching it, you're assuming that a black person or a white person who's writing something is going to write something that a white person or a black person will like because they think and feel the same. Welcome to being woke. Dungeons & Dragons is going to go down, and they're going to go down hard. And then people are going to question, where did they go wrong? It's this. It's thinking in the terms of fucking race and gender and having a quota in your story. If you think that you need more women representation because you have more women who are watching what you do, if the percentage of women watching your content or consuming your content is currently having 90+% men in the workforce in Dungeons and Dragons. And let's just say that there's 25% women. 10% are working there, 25% are consuming it. If you have 25%, what matters are the content that a woman would enjoy. And if you bring in a woman because you want to have a woman think in a certain you want to have representation of a woman, more women coming in to have more women start consuming it, you're assuming that a woman will think and feel a certain way. Welcome to the sexist that you are. It is important to have women's perspective on things, but what matters is execution. So, okay. It's like, who am I going to listen to doing something? Who am I going to listen to when it comes to producing something for and derived around for women? Well, I want to gain the perspective of a woman, but I'm not going to shit on men as well. And again, being woke, you usually shit on men, and it's usually men who are, pussified and stuff, so. And we will continue to listen to all of you. All of you, or just specifically a portion of you, only up until the point that we've listened to enough of you. When you have quotas, that's what happens. It's like, oh, we've listened to you black people enough. We need to listen to other people. It's like, wait, what? What does me being black or white have anything to do with what I like? Like, what? We created 5th edition in conversation with the Dungeons & Dragons community. It's a conversation that continues to this day. I agree with that. That's the heart of our work. Listening to the community, learning what brings you joy, and doing everything we can to provide in every one of our books that you're going to be changing. Not creating a 6th edition This part of our work will never end. We know that every day someone finds the courage to voice their truth. Their truth? Welcome to being woke, bitch! Their truth. What if their truth is shit? What if their truth is wrong? Well, it doesn't matter. We're going to listen to you. Well, are there some people who, like, in all essence, the people who are buying your shit, the people who are buying your stuff, you want to listen to those people more. The people who, the common folk, the people who only play Dungeons and Dragons once a month. And maybe even listen to Dungeons and Dragons stories on YouTube once a week. And not play Dungeons and Dragons. Those people matter too. But what matters are those who are going to continue to consume your products, consume your content. Not the people who are voicing their opinion. Not the people who just think that because an orc and a drow are related to real-world things, real-world people, they're not. If you think that, if there's somebody out there who thinks that, and you came out and said, this is a fantasy world, like, I'm sorry, but shut up. You just shut down 1% of every single person you're listening to. 1%. Because 1% of the population who are voicing their opinions about this type of nonsense you're listening to are the people who won't continue to consume your products because there's no end to that. There's no winning with people who think that way. There is no winning. They'll just want to have your stuff burn. They want you to change your history because they feel bad. And then they'll just move on once it's boring. So you change your entire past because of the people now, and if they get bored with what you're doing, well, guess what? You've changed your entire past. Do you remember it? Do you have copies of it? Are you going to go back that way? No. Going backwards is regressive. Okay, no. Looking to history and figuring out what worked and what didn't, that's not regressive. Regressive is to continue doing the wrong thing because you know what is better and you're choosing to not do what's better because of a biased belief. This part of our work will never end. We know that every day someone finds the I already said that. We are eternally grateful for the ongoing dialogue with the Dungeons & Dragons community, and we look forward to continue to improve Dungeons & Dragons for generations to come. For generations to come, if, again, you're not caring about the people who continue, that love, I enjoy 3.5. I enjoy it. I don't know much about it because I wasn't part of the rules. I just got my character. People helped me create it, and I played it. It was fun. But it's like for the generation. Okay, Icewind Dale, Rim of the Frost Maiden. This artwork looks amazing. It really does. This is what I enjoy about Dungeons and Dragons. Now again, there's a guy frozen to death on the ground and stuff, and yeah, the book looks amazing. The story, the artwork looks amazing. There's a podcast? No, it's just an article. Okay. But Dungeons & Dragons, they've been woke. But now they're getting even more blatant with it. Some of the things that they are producing, I'm on board with. But they're going to be scorching the earth and changing everything because of current modern day sensibility, and it's gotten weaker. The best way to become political proof is to become stronger, not change other people's minds. If you want to become politically proof, like, hey, what's happening in this world? If you start questioning it. Why? Now, again, I wouldn't just say that because there's been a person who, a Black Lives Matter person out in the streets, saying Black Lives Matter. Someone else said all lives matter. The mother who said that got shot 3 times. I think once or twice in the head. She died. She's dead. So there's a difference between being politically proof and smart, but I would say just, if you want to know what's correct, ask questions. Ask questions and lead where the answers go, not what you think is right or wrong. Because, again, I lead myself down some pretty harsh roads that I probably shouldn't have gone down. Doesn't mean that because I went down the road means that it's good. Because I'm thinking my personal truth means that my personal truth is correct or should be acted on by me. Because what if I'm wrong? Well, you can't be wrong because it's your truth. It's bullshit. We both know it's bullshit. You're just justifying your behavior because you don't want to change. Welcome to being woke. Welcome to the life of being woke. So, Dungeons and Dragons, I'm looking forward to purchasing your old material, and Godspeed to anybody who actually is still consuming their product. So, yeah, thank you very much for being a part of this. Please post your comments, questions, concerns right down below. Please smash that like button because that greatly helps this channel out. And hit that subscribe button since you're clicking buttons. It'd be grateful. I'd be grateful. It'd be great. It'd be nice. Oh, it'd be nice. Oh, it'd be so nice. Thank you very much for being a part of this, and most importantly, do wonders in the world. Go out and be great to each other. Thank you, and see you next time.